Hello all, I'm Scar with SCS, but that's not important right now, as in this episode of Cogs, Gears and Optic Sensors, we are talking about the first ever Transformers story from the UK, released in the January of 1985, Man of Iron. Now, before we delve into this, I do want to mention the source material I'm using to showcase these to you, which are the full colour images used in Marvel UK's Collected Comics number 3, which represented some of the black and white strips from the original publication. This was also recoloured a second time by Marvel US artist Nelson Yomtov, which I believe was to allow for the difference in paper stock used. So parts 1 and 2 take place across issues 9 and 10 of the UK title and were later consolidated together to make issue 33 of the US book. But that wasn't for another 2.5 years until the June of 1987, despite none of the characters featured actually shipping to toy stores anymore, although Optimus Prime and Megatron were still available if you had some robot points to spare. Written by UK scribe Steve Parkhouse and with art by John Ridgway, who had collaborated previously on Marvel UK's Doctor Who stories, this tale takes place in the English countryside in the fictional village of Stantham. Yes, Stantham, home to the historical site of Stantham Castle, where our security officer George Cousins is rudely awakened whilst at work by three jet fighters, one of which is supporting a somewhat familiar grey deco as they indiscriminately drop bombs on the place, and I'm sure the English Heritage Charity will have to write a strongly worded letter to somebody about that type of behaviour. Thankfully, no casualties are reported, and the local constabulary, along with an army officer, are soon on scene to deal with public safety and the subsequent ordnance disposal. Given that we are well and truly in the days before family group chats, our castle museum boss Roy, having been notified of the incident and aware that his son Sammy was playing in the woods nearby, attempts to summons him home. But Sammy, still role playing as a character from a Western movie, decides he's not quite ready to go back yet and inadvertently comes face to face with Jazz, who is slinking around in robot mode. Now, I'm not sure what's more conspicuous, a giant alien robot or a Porsche 935 in full rally deco casually parked in the English woodland, but Jazz takes an interest in the organic life form and surveils him home. And we get to see a reference to Jazz being simply a code name, something mentioned only previously by Bumblebee in US issue number 2, and he subsequently reports back to the call sign of Autobot Leader whilst the damage is being assessed at the castle. This human Autobot counter is portrayed by Parkhouse far differently from what we've seen in the US book, or even the G1 cartoon at this point, with complete silence from Jazz until his radio transmission, giving him a real, unearthly, and alien vibe. Far different style-wise to what we've seen. But as we move on to see some of the history of Stantham Castle as read to Sammy by his dad Roy, and a medieval siege, before our titular robot appears and interjects into the battle, becoming a figure of local legend in the process. And with a 900-year-old image to draw from, Roy, believing the account that Sammy's given him, shows him the Man of Iron, which Sammy positively identifies as the mechanical being concerned. But as night falls, poor Sammy is clearly disturbed at what he's seen, and has nightmares about spaceships and jet fighters, as Mirage, who is taking a gentle evening stroll through a quaint English village in full robot mode, presumably as his F1 car would stand out too much, takes a visit to the Harker residence. And in terms of alt modes, you really do have to wonder why Optimus didn't give Trailbreaker or Bluestreak this portion of the mission. But in full X-Files alien abduction mode, Mirage disrupts gravity and quickly steals the image that Sammy had been given by his father, for reasons as yet unknown to us or the Harker family, as Sammy pleads to be let go. The commotion, however, has attracted the attention of his parents, who find themselves having to force entry to his room, and believing a freak weather event to be responsible for the scene he's presented with, Roy looks out of his son's open bedroom window to see robot mode Mirage disappearing into the darkness. Again, you notice the complete dearth of dialogue between the Cybertronians and the humans, giving them a hugely mysterious quality in the confines of this story. The next morning, however, upon arriving for work, Roy is met with a full military response to the recent jet incident, and Captain Whiteley leaks the potential discovery underneath the site, with the curator responding by alluding to Sammy's recent encounters with the two Autobots, one of which is still staking out the Harker's home address, and even Sammy notices something amiss with the now, curiously, right-hand drive Jazz for the UK roads, casually parked in the street. until he recognises the missing medieval drawing and the car door swings open, inviting him in. Now, it would appear that Sammy has not been paying attention to the public service announcements associated with cartoons of the era, and with a little encouragement from Jazz, jumps into the driver's seat while the Special Ops Commander tries to elicit some information from him about the happenings at the nearby castle. However, upon the arrival of Mrs. Harker, Jazz whisks Sammy away as our young lead character cries out for help. Now, whilst I joked about the PSA a moment ago, credit should be given to Marvel for the socially responsible tagline they placed underneath the concluding panel in the original printing, which you can see here. Usually at this point I'd show the alternate UK covers, but as they were just reuses of panels from the story, I can showcase this completely original Marvel US cover, featuring what I believe to be a somewhat off-model and also very off-colour Megatron by US fantasy artist Charles Vess, and then the Collected Comics number 3 reprint from Marvel UK in 1986, which, whilst reusing the art from UK issue number 2, does feature both the toy model Jazz and Mirage in keeping with this story's character art. So that brings us to the end of the very first half of Man of Iron, and in a huge shift tone-wise from the US book. So let me know if you read it, and if so, did you read the original release or one of the later full-colour versions? Say so in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a like, subscribe to the channel, and even consider turning on notifications. If you didn't like it, leave a like anyway. They don't bite. If you want to come and say hi or tell your friends about the channel on social media, you can find me here. So thanks for watching along, folks, and above all, stay safe.